I won $4.8 million in the state lottery last winter. But instead of celebrating, I told no one, not even my family. I wanted to see who'd still care if I was broke. I called my brother, Mark, my hands shaking. "Mark," I said, my voice tight, I got laid off." There was a pause. Then, a sharp, barking laugh. "Wow, Anna. Well, maybe now you'll finally learn to be useful." I felt like I'd swallowed broken glass. I hung up. I dialed my mother. "Mom, they let me go." A long, weary sigh came through the phone. "Oh, Anna, you're just like your father, always unlucky." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "How can I help?" They treated me like an ATM for years. This was my test. I had no idea that test would cost me the only family I had left. But that was just the beginning, because 3 weeks later, I'd discover my brother had been systematically stealing from me for years. And my mother? She knew. She'd always known. Just before you continue to watch, please subscribe to this channel and like this video. It would encourage and help us keep creating amazing content for you. All right, back to the story. The lottery ticket was tucked in my glove compartment. Laminated, protected, worth more money than I'd see in 10 lifetimes of my boring admin job. But I couldn't cash it. Not yet. Not until I knew the truth about the people who were supposed to love me. I needed to know if I was their daughter or just their bank account. The answer came faster than I expected, and it was worse than I could have imagined. Let me back up. You need to understand my family. My dad died when I was 22. A heart attack at 53, triggered by stress he never talked about. He was a painter. Not the house painting kind, the canvas kind. The kind that dies hoping someone will discover their genius after they're gone. No one ever did. He left behind a dusty workshop on the edge of town, 43 unsold canvases, and $67,000 in medical debt. My mother, Karen, made sure I understood that his dreaming had killed him, that art was selfishness, that practicality was love. She never looked at his paintings again. I was 7 when he first brought me to that workshop. The smell of linseed oil and turpentine, the afternoon light cutting through the dusty windows and golden bars. He let me mix the paints, showed me how cadmium yellow and Prussian blue made the perfect green. "See, Annie, magic is just knowing which things belong together," he said, his paint-stained fingers guiding mine. He died thinking I'd keep that place alive. Instead, I locked it up and got a job in medical billing. Practical. Safe. Exactly what Mom wanted. Mark was different. Mark was the golden boy. 3 years younger than me, all confidence and charm. He had ideas, big ideas, million-dollar ideas that only needed a little seed money to take off. "Anna, this crypto opportunity is different. It's not like the others. I've got inside information." That was $8,000. "This app idea, it's like Uber, but for dog walkers. The market research is solid. I just need $12,000 for the prototype." Another $12,000 gone. "NFTs are the future, Anna. Get in now or regret it forever. Just $15,000. I'll pay you back double." I never saw that money again either. Every time I'd sigh and transfer the money I'd saved from my boring, reliable job, the one that paid $38,000 a year and made my mother's lip curl every time she asked what I did for a living. "You're still in billing? Honey, don't you want more?" But when Mark needed money for his ventures, that same job became essential. "He's building a future, Anna. You should support him. That's what family does." what family does. Over 10 years, I'd given him $127,000. I kept a spreadsheet. I told myself I wasn't resentful, just organized. That I was investing in my brother's dreams because someone should have invested in Dad's. But Dad's dreams involved paint and canvas. Mark's dreams involved other people's money and a stunning lack of follow-through. So when I stopped at a gas station on a Tuesday night and scratched off that lottery ticket, a stupid impulse buy, $5 I could barely afford, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't tell the clerk. I sat in my beat-up Honda Civic staring at the numbers. $4.8 million. After taxes, roughly $3.2 million in my pocket. I didn't feel joy. I felt something else. Something sharp and clear and terrifying. I felt like I finally had a weapon. Not to hurt them, to test them. I drove home in silence, the ticket in my purse, my hands steady on the wheel. By the time I pulled into my apartment complex, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I needed to see who they really were when I had nothing left to give. I went to a lawyer first, not the family attorney Mom used, but a high-powered financial specialist in the city, 2 hours away. I wore a baseball cap and sunglasses like some kind of criminal. Paid the $500 consultation fee in cash. I need to disappear, I told him, financially. He didn't even blink. Witness protection? No. I want to claim lottery winnings without anyone knowing. I want the money invisible, untouchable. He smiled, the kind of smile that costs money. Anonymous LLC, series of blind trusts. We can structure it so your name appears nowhere in the public record. It'll cost you about $50,000 in legal fees and setup costs. Do it. 3 weeks later, it was done. The $4.8 million was claimed, taxed, and parked in a web of legal entities so complex that even a forensic accountant would need a court order and a map to find it. The primary trust was registered to a company called Cadmium Blue Holdings. Dad would have appreciated that. Then I took the next step. I actually quit my job. My boss, Patricia, looked genuinely shocked. But Anna, you're our most reliable employee. Is it the money? I can talk to HR about a raise. It's not the money, I said. And I meant it. I just need a change. I gave 2 weeks' notice. I cleaned out my desk. I smiled at my going away cake. And then I started the test. I moved out of my decent one-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood and into a studio in the worst part of town, the kind where you heard sirens every night and the carpet had stains that asked questions you didn't want answered. Rent was $450 a month. The neighbors fought at 3 a.m. Perfect. I sold my Honda, got $1,200 for it, and started taking the bus. I let my gym membership lapse, stopped getting my hair done, started buying my clothes from Goodwill. I became exactly who they'd always seen me as. Broke, struggling, useless. Then I made the calls. Mark's laugh still echoes in my head. That sharp, barking laugh when I told him I'd lost my job. Mom's sigh, that long, weary sigh. You're just like your father. And then I waited. I waited for the follow-up call, the "how are you holding up" text, the "do you need anything" concern that families are supposed to show. 2 weeks of silence. Not one call, not one text. Just silence. Until my phone finally rang on day 16. Mark. Hey, so I know you're between jobs and all, ha ha ha, but I've got this amazing app idea. New app. It's like Airbnb, but for storage spaces. Revolutionary. I just need a small bridge loan to get the prototype built. 10 grand. You've got savings, right? I let the silence stretch. Let him hear it. Mark, I can't. I'm barely making rent. I'm eating ramen. I don't have anything. The change in his voice was instant. The fake warmth vanished like someone had flipped a switch. Are you serious right now? His voice went sharp, cold. You're telling me you don't have $10,000 saved? What have you been doing for 10 years, Anna? You never go anywhere. You never buy anything. Where's all your money? I gave it to you, I said quietly. Oh, here we go. You're going to throw that in my face? I'm trying to build something, Anna. I'm trying to make something of myself. But you're just stuck. You're always stuck. Mark. You know what? Forget it. Forget I asked. Some of us are trying to succeed. Some of us have ambition. He hung up. I sat on my lumpy mattress in my terrible apartment, holding my phone, and I felt something crack inside my chest. But it wasn't my heart breaking. It was my patience. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A text message. From Mark. But it wasn't for me. She's totally useless now. Said she has no money. We're going to have to force her to sell Dad's old workshop. It's the only asset left. Call the lawyer. He'd sent it to me instead of Mom. My phone slipped from my hand and clattered on the cheap linoleum floor. Dad's workshop. I hadn't been inside in 2 years, maybe longer. It sat on a quarter-acre lot on the edge of town, technically within city limits, but barely. A rundown garage with a tin roof and windows so dirty they barely let in light. The deed was in my name. Dad had left it to me specifically in his will. For Anna, may she find magic there. Mom had tried to talk me into selling it a dozen times. It's just sitting there, honey, dead money. You could get 50, maybe 60,000 for it. Invest it properly. I'd always said no. It was all I had left of him. And now Mark wanted to force a sale. I called my mother. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. Mom, what's this about the workshop? Her voice meant sweet. That sickly, artificial sweet that she used when she wanted something. Oh, honey, Mark was just worried about you. With you being unemployed and all, we thought cashing out might give you a cushion, to help. It's my property, Mom. Dad left it to me. Don't be dramatic, Anna. We're family. We help each other. Mark needs what? The sweetness vanished. Her voice went hard. Don't use that tone with me. You're coming over for dinner Sunday. We'll discuss this like civilized people. She hung up. I sat there, staring at the wall. Then I got dressed. I took the bus to the workshop. When I got there, there was a new padlock on the door. Heavy duty, industrial. My father's old brass key, the one I'd carried on my keychain for 10 years, was useless. I called a locksmith. I don't know, ma'am. He looked at my ratty clothes, my greasy hair. He looked at me like I might be a vagrant trying to break in. I'm the owner. I can show you the deed. Please, I think someone changed the locks without my permission. All right, but I'm calling the cops if anything seems off. Please do. 20 minutes and $150 later, money I paid from a crumpled envelope of cash, the lock clicked open. I pushed the door wide. The smell hit me first. Not turpentine, not linseed oil, not Dad. Plastic. Chemicals. The sharp ozone smell of cheap electronics. The workshop wasn't a workshop anymore. It was a storage unit. Boxes, stacked floor to ceiling. Boxes of fidget spinners with peeling labels. Boxes of hoverboards from 2015 with fire hazard recalled stickers. Boxes of cryptocurrency mining rigs that were obsolete before they were unboxed. Mark's failed ventures. All of them. stored here, in Dad's space. I walked deeper inside, my chest tight. Dad's painting desk, the one with his initials carved in the corner, RJ for Robert Jensen, was buried under shipping labels and packing tape. And underneath a stack of invoices, I found a file folder. My name was on it. Anna Jensen, loan documents. My hands went numb as I opened it. It was a loan agreement from 2 years ago for $75,000 from First National Bank, secured against the workshop property. I looked at the signature line. Anna Marie Jensen. But I'd never signed this. I'd never even seen this document. He'd forged my signature. My brother had forged my name, taken out a loan against property I owned, and defaulted. The bank was foreclosing. That's why he wanted to force a sale, not to help me, to cover up the forgery before I discovered it. I took photos of everything, every page, every signature, every box of garbage he'd stored in Dad's sacred space. Then I drove to my mother's house. I didn't call first. I didn't knock. Mark's BMW was in the driveway. Polished, pristine, probably leased with money he didn't have. I walked in through the side door. They were in the kitchen, drinking wine at 3 p.m. You forged my name. I threw the file onto the kitchen island. Papers scattered across the granite. Mark didn't flinch. He picked up his wine glass, swirled it, took a sip. It was a business transaction, Anna. You wouldn't understand the complexities. You forged my signature on a $75,000 loan. That's fraud. That's a felony. It's a misunderstanding. You were going to let the bank foreclose on Dad's workshop to cover up your crime? My mother stood up. Her face was red. Anna, lower your voice. You're being hysterical. It's just a building. Mark needed help, and you weren't in a position to provide it. You forged my name. And you're being selfish. She actually screamed. You're unemployed. You have nothing. What do you need that dusty old garage for anyway? Mark is building a future. Mark has vision. You're just like your father, a dreamer with no practical sense. I looked at them. Really looked at them. Mark, lounging against the counter in his expensive sweater, unbothered. Mom, her face twisted with self-righteous anger. I wasn't their daughter. I wasn't their sister. I was a resource. And resources don't get respect. They get used up. I turned around, walked out, got on the bus, and I started to plan. I went back to my studio apartment and opened my laptop. I didn't go to Facebook. I went deeper. I started with Mark Jensen and lawsuits, then Mark Jensen and complaints, then Mark Jensen and scam. What I found made my blood run cold. He wasn't just a bad businessman. He was a con artist. There were forum posts on Reddit, threads on local community boards, angry reviews on the Better Business Bureau. Mark Jensen took my $5,000 deposit for app development and vanished. Mark Jensen sold me investment shares in a company that doesn't exist. Mark Jensen promised a 40% return in 90 days. It's been 2 years. He won't return my calls. A trail of victims, dozens of them. People who'd believed in his ideas, his charisma, his promises. Small claims court judgments, at least 6, all unpaid. Then I found something else, something that made everything click into place. Another loan, not from First National Bank, from Bridgewater Capital Partners. I searched for Bridgewater Capital, no website, no corporate filings, just a P.O. box address in a strip mall 2 towns over. The loan amount, $250,000. The collateral, my mother's house. The due date, 1 week from today. This wasn't a bank. This was a loan shark operation, the kind that doesn't send lawyers, the kind that sends men with tire irons. And suddenly, the workshop scheme made perfect sense. They weren't just trying to cover up the forgery. They were desperate, panicked. They needed cash, any cash, to pay off the loan sharks before something terrible happened. Mark had forged Mom's signature too. Or worse, she'd signed willingly, believing his promises. And now they were both drowning. Part of me, the old Anna, the one who'd spent 10 years transferring money every time they asked, wanted to fix it, wanted to pay off the loans, make it all go away, save them from their own stupidity. I could just pay it, all of it. Use the lottery money, make it disappear, wipe the slate clean. I went to see Mr. Henderson the next morning. The corner cup hadn't changed in 30 years. Same cracked vinyl booths, same Formica countertops, same coffee that could strip paint. Dad used to bring me here every Saturday, scrambled eggs and toast. Mr. Henderson would always sneak me an extra strip of bacon and wink. "Henderson," Dad would say, "you're going to spoil her." "Someone's got to, Robert. You're too busy painting clouds." They'd laugh, real laughs, the kind men share when they've known each other since childhood. Mr. Henderson was wiping down the counter when I walked in. He looked up and his weathered face crinkled into a smile. "Anna Jensen. Been a while, kid." I sat down. The words tumbled out. All of it. The lottery, the test, the forged loans, the loan sharks. Mark and Mom drowning in debt they couldn't pay. He listened, didn't interrupt, just refilled my coffee when it got low. When I finished, I looked at him. I could pay it all off. The $75,000 for the bank, the $250,000 for Bridgewater. I could make it disappear. They'd never even know I had the money. Mr. Henderson was quiet for a long time. He poured himself a cup of coffee, added cream, stirred it slow. "What happens in 6 months?" he said finally. "What do you mean? What happens when Mark needs money again? What happens when he forges your name on something else? What happens when your mother calls you selfish for not funding his next scheme?" I didn't have an answer. "Your father," his voice soft. "Everyone said he was unlucky. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong dreams. But he wasn't unlucky, Anna. He was kind. And some people like your mother, they saw that kindness as weakness, something to exploit." He looked at me with eyes that had seen too much of the world. "You've got the same kindness in you. I see it. But right now, you need to ask yourself, are you saving them or are you just enabling them to hurt you again?" I stared into my coffee. "Sometimes," Mr. Henderson said, "the only way to stop a bully is to let them face the consequences of their own actions, even if it hurts, even if it costs you something." He was right. Paying off the loans wouldn't fix anything. It would just hit the reset button. They'd learn nothing, change nothing. They'd just come back for more. "What do I do?" I whispered. He smiled, sad, knowing. "You already know, kid. That's why you came here." I finished my coffee, paid, left a $50 tip, and I went home to make a plan. The plan was simple, brutal, but simple. I called Mark 2 days later, put on my scared, desperate voice. "Mark, it's Anna. I've been thinking about what you said about family." Silence on the line. Suspicious. "I might be able to get some money. A friend offered to loan me some for the workshop problem." The relief in his voice was instant, sickening. Anna! Oh my God, I knew you'd come through. You're the best. How much can you get? I I think I can cover the bank loan, the 75,000. That's amazing. But listen, his voice dropped when wheedling. Could you maybe get a little more? Like 250, 300? I've got this new opportunity, but I need capital. Of course he did. I'll try, I said. But Mark, is there anything else you need to tell me? Any other debts? This was his chance, his one single chance to come clean, to tell me about Bridgewater Capital, about Mom's house, about the loan sharks. Nope, just the bank thing. Once that's cleared, everything's good. He was still lying, still playing me, even when I was offering to help. Okay, I said sweetly. Meet me at the workshop Friday, noon. Bring all the paperwork. I want to see everything before I hand over any money. You got it. Anything you need. See you Friday, Mark. I hung up. Then I made the real calls. First, to my lawyer. Cut a cashier's check for exactly $75,321.44, the amount to pay off the bank lien on the property. Second, to First National Bank's fraud department. I have evidence of loan forgery. I'll be at the property Friday at noon to settle the lien. I'd like a representative there. Third, I found contact information for 3 of Mark's other victims, people from the Reddit threads. I sent anonymous emails. Want to know where your money went? 447 Industrial Way, Friday, noon. Mark Jensen will be there. He's expecting a big payout. Thought you should know. And finally, I made one last call. To Bridgewater Capital. A man answered, voice like gravel. Yeah? I have information about Mark Jensen. He owes you money. We know where he lives, lady. He's going to be at 447 Industrial Way on Friday at noon, and he's telling everyone he's about to collect a big pile of cash. A pause. That's so? Thought you'd want to know. I hung up. I wasn't bringing my brother a life raft. I was bringing consequences. Friday came too fast and too slow at the same time. I barely slept Thursday night. I kept thinking about Mark as a kid, before he became this. There was this one time when I was 9 and he was 6. He'd got into a fight at school defending me because some kid said my shoes were ugly. He came home with a black eye and a huge grin. I told him your shoes were cool, Anna. I told him he was stupid. Mom had been furious. Fighting is for animals, Mark. But Dad had ruffled his hair and winked at me. That Mark, the one who'd defend his system, where had he gone? I pushed the memory away. That Mark was gone. Maybe he'd never really existed. Maybe I just imagined the good parts because I wanted a brother who loved me. Friday, noon. I wasn't at the workshop. I was across the street, parked in a rental car, watching. The cashier's check was in my glove compartment, the only money I was actually going to spend. Mark arrived first. His BMW looked freshly washed. He got out carrying a briefcase, probably full of the paperwork I'd requested. He looked terrible. Pale, sweating, his hair uncombed. His expensive sweater had a stain on the sleeve. He kept checking his watch, checking his phone. He called me. I watched the screen light up. Mark? I sent it to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail. He started pacing, running his hands through his hair. He looked like a trapped animal.
Then a black Mercedes sedan pulled up. Mark froze. But it wasn't the loan sharks. It was my mother. She got out and stormed over to him. Even from across the street, I could see her mouth moving furiously. Mark was gesturing, panicked, pointing at his phone. They argued for maybe 2 minutes. Then the second car arrived. A dark blue Suburban with tinted windows. Pristine, expensive, menacing. 2 men got out. Both large, both moving with the kind of casual confidence that comes from never being afraid. One wore suits, the other wore jeans and a leather jacket. They walked up to Mark and Mom like they had all the time in the world. I watched Mark's face go white, watched him hold up his briefcase like a shield. One of the men said something. Mark shook his head frantically. My mother screamed something, pointed at Mark, then at the workshop. The man in the suit laughed. Actually laughed. And that's when I knew I had to get out. This wasn't just going to be a confrontation. This was going to be something worse. My hand was on the door handle. This was my mother. She was cruel, she was selfish, but she was my mother. I should stop this. This was too much. But I thought about the voicemail I had ignored, about the forgery, about 10 years of being used. And I got out of the car.
I walked across the street. Anna! My mother's voice shrill with relief. Thank God! Give them the money. The 2 large men turned to look at me. The one in the suit had gray at his temples and dead eyes. The one in the leather jacket had a scar across his knuckles. They didn't smile, just assessed, calculated. I walked past them, looked at Mark. Where's the paperwork? What? His voice was shaking. There was sweat running down his temples. The paperwork, the loan documents, the proof that you forged my name. I want it in writing or I don't pay anything. The man in the suit actually chuckled. A cold, dry sound. Family drama. How touching. We'll wait. Anna, just give them the money. Mom grabbed my arm. Her nails dug into my skin. I shook her off, looked right at Mark, at Mom, at these 2 people who'd used me for a decade. I don't have it, I said calmly. The air went still. Even the traffic noise seemed to fade. Mark's face crumpled. What? What do you mean you don't have it? I don't have the money. I'm broke, remember? I lost my job. I'm eating ramen in a studio apartment with roaches. I can barely make rent. But you said. I said I'd try. I tried. I couldn't get it. Sorry. The man in the suit stopped smiling. He looked at Mark, then at me, then back at Mark. So, there's no money? He said. It wasn't a question. No money. Mark's legs actually buckled. He grabbed the workshop door to steady himself. You set me up. You fucking bitch, you set me up. You forged my name, he said quietly. You took out a loan against Dad's workshop. You were going to let the bank take the only thing I had left of him. You did this, not me. Anna, please. My mother's voice cracked. She was crying now, real tears streaming down her face. He's your brother. He is my son. Please, you have to help him. And you're my mother, but you called me unlucky, useless, just like Dad. You let Mark forge my name. You encouraged him. You knew what he was doing, and you helped him. I didn't know about the forgery. Yes, you did. You knew. You've always known. A 3rd car pulled up, a plain Ford sedan. 2 people in business suits got out. Bank representatives. I pulled the cashier's check from my pocket, walked past Mark, past my mother, past the 2 men who were now watching this unfold with professional interest. I handed it to the woman in the suit. This is for the lien on the property at 447 Industrial Way, the lien secured by a forged signature. That's Mark Jensen. I'm Anna Jensen, the actual property owner. I'd like to file a fraud report. The woman took the check, looked at it, looked at Mark. Mr. Jensen? That's him, I said, pointing. More cars started arriving, 3 of them. The people Mark had scammed. They must have seen my emails. An older couple, a young guy who looked like a developer, a woman in her 40s with fury in her eyes.
There was a crowd now, angry voices. That's him! That's the guy who took my money! Mark Jensen, you owe me $8,000! Where's my investment, Mark? The bank representatives were talking urgently into their phones. One was taking photos of Mark. I turned back to the two large men from Bridgewater Capital. As for his debt to you, I have no idea about it. I'm unemployed. I can't help. The man in the suit nodded slowly. His face showed nothing. Then he put his hand on Mark's shoulder. Mark flinched like he'd been hit with electricity. Mark, you and I need to have a conversation. In the car. No, please. Mark was sobbing now. Actually sobbing, snot running from his nose. Anna, please, I'm sorry. I'll fix it. I'll make it right. Mom, help me. Don't let them take me. My mother just stood there, frozen, her face white. She looked at the bank representatives, at the angry investors closing in, at her son being taken. She didn't move. The man in the leather jacket took Mark's other arm. They walked him toward the Suburban. He was crying, begging, his voice getting higher and more desperate. Please, I have a plan. I can get the money. Just give me 1 more week. They put him in the back seat. The door closed. The sound was final. My mother finally moved. She turned to look at me. Her face wasn't sad. It wasn't scared. It was pure hatred. Like I was something that crawled out of a rock. Like I was evil incarnate. You did this, she hissed. Her voice was shaking. You destroyed him. You destroyed our family. You're a monster. A monster. She spat. It hit my shoe. Then she turned, walked to her Mercedes with jerky, mechanical movements, got in, and drove away. She left him. Just drove away while her son was being taken by loan sharks. She chose herself. The Suburban pulled away. I watched it disappear around the corner. The bank representatives were talking to the police. Someone had called 911. The other investors were shouting, demanding to know where Mark went, threatening lawsuits. And I was just standing on the sidewalk, alone. The workshop was safe. The forgery was exposed. Mark was gone. I should have felt relief, victory, vindication, something. But all I felt was numb, like I was watching this happen to someone else. One of the bank representatives walked over. Ms. Jensen, we'll need you to come to the station to file a formal fraud report. Okay, I heard myself say. I got in my rental car, followed them to the police station, spent 3 hours giving statements, signing papers, providing evidence. They told me Mark would likely face criminal charges. Fraud, forgery, identity theft. Good, I said. But it didn't feel good. I drove back to my studio apartment as the sun was setting, sat in the car in the parking lot, and I finally cried.
I found out what happened to Mark through Mr. Henderson 3 weeks later. I'd avoided the diner, avoided Mr. Henderson, avoided everyone. But he called me. Anna, you need to know. Bridgewater Capital took Mark to Nevada, kept him there for 3 days. He checked himself into an emergency room with 2 broken ribs, a shattered hand, 3 missing teeth, and cigarette burns on his arms. Told the doctors he fell downstairs. The police didn't believe him, but couldn't prove otherwise. He refused to press charges or give any information. The loan was forgiven after he signed over every asset he owned: his car, his laptop, his phone, his expensive clothes, his watch, everything. They drove him back to our town and dumped him at a gas station at 4 a.m. He moved back into Mom's house. She made him sleep on the couch. They blame you, Mr. Henderson said quietly. Every day, I hear it through the grapevine. Your mother tells anyone who'll listen that you destroyed the family, that you had money and refused to help, that you're vindictive and cruel. I didn't have money, I said automatically. The lie came easy now. I know, kid. I know. But he didn't know. Not really. A week later, a letter arrived at my P.O. box, handwritten, my mother's distinctive script. I almost threw it away unopened, but I didn't. I read it. Anna, you destroyed your brother. You destroyed this family. Mark is broken. He can't work. He can barely leave the house. He wakes up screaming. Whatever you think he didn't deserve what happened to him. You could have helped. You chose not to. You chose revenge over family. I hope you're proud of yourself. I hope your cruelty keeps you warm at night. Your father would be ashamed of what you've become. You are not my daughter anymore. Karen. I read it 3 times. Then I burned it in my kitchen sink and watched the paper curl and blacken. But the words stayed with me, haunted me. Your father would be ashamed. Would he? Would Dad be ashamed that I'd protected his workshop? That I'd stopped letting them use me? Or would he be ashamed that I'd orchestrated Mark's destruction so precisely, that I'd called the loan sharks myself? I didn't know anymore. The criminal case moved forward. The prosecutor called me twice. They were building a case for fraud, forgery, and identity theft. Multiple victims were cooperating. Mark was looking at serious prison time. "We'll need you to testify," the prosecutor said. Okay, but the trial date kept getting pushed back. Mark's public defender was arguing he was mentally unfit to stand trial, that the trauma from the assault had left him unable to participate in his own defense. Months passed. I moved out of the studio and into a real apartment, then into a condo, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows on the 23rd floor. I furnished it minimally: a bed, a couch, a table, everything white and clean and empty. I sat in that condo every night and looked out at the city lights. I could see the diner from my window, the Corner Cup, a small bright spot 20 blocks away. I never went back. I couldn't face Mr. Henderson, couldn't face the one person whose opinion I actually cared about, because I knew what he'd see in my eyes. Not the kind girl who loved her father, not the victim who finally stood up for herself. He'd see the person who called the loan sharks, who'd orchestrated everything, who'd known exactly what would happen and done it anyway. 6 months after the workshop incident, I sat with my wealth manager in his sterile office. "The Henderson Trust is established," he said, sliding papers across his desk. "It will purchase the diner building and gift it to Mr. Henderson, along with a lifetime annuity of $60,000 per year, anonymously, as requested." Good. And the remainder, approximately $2.8 million after fees and the trust, will be allocated to the Art Jensen Fund for after-school art programs. Yes. I signed the papers. All of them. Signing away millions. My hand didn't shake once. I'd saved the workshop. I'd secured Mr. Henderson's future. I'd helped hundreds of kids discover art. I'd done good things with the money. But I'd also destroyed my family to get here. Was the balance sheet positive? Was I a good person who'd done a bad thing, or a bad person who'd done some good things? I didn't know anymore. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Sarah Chin, twice a week at first, then once a week. I didn't tell her about the lottery. I told her I'd come into a small inheritance, that my family had cut me off over it, that my brother had been hurt because of debts I'd refused to pay. "Do you feel guilty?" she asked in our 3rd session. "I don't know what I feel. That's a feeling in itself. Numbness, disconnection. It's a protective mechanism. Am I a bad person?" She smiled gently. "That's not a question I can answer, but I can ask you. Do you think you're a bad person?" I looked out her window. Rain was streaking down the glass. "I think I became the thing I hated," I said quietly. "I spent 10 years being used, being treated like an ATM, and when I finally had power, I used it to hurt them, just like they hurt me." "Did you intend to hurt them? Or did you intend to protect yourself?" "Does it matter?" the result is the same. Intent always matters, Anna. But I wasn't sure she was right. Mark had probably never intended to destroy me. He just needed money. He just wanted success. His intentions were selfish but not deliberately cruel. And yet, the result was the same as if he'd set out to hurt me. My intentions had been, what? Protection? Justice? Revenge? All three, probably. I went to the workshop one Saturday morning, 8 months after everything fell apart. I'd paid off the bank lien. The property was mine, free and clear. I'd had the locks changed again, new keys, just for me. I opened the door. Someone had cleaned it out, the bank probably, or the police. All of Mark's boxes were gone. The space was empty, except for one thing, Dad's paintings. They were still there, stacked against the wall, 43 canvases, landscapes mostly, the desert, the mountains, clouds. I pulled one out, a sunset over red rocks. The colors were rich, layered. You could see where he'd mixed the paints, building depth. It was beautiful. It had always been beautiful. I sat on the dusty floor and cried, really cried, for the first time since everything happened. I cried for Dad, for the artist who never got recognized, for the dreamer who died thinking he'd failed. I cried for the 7-year-old girl who'd mixed paints and believed in magic. I cried for Mark, not the con artist, but the 6-year-old who'd come home with a black eye defending his sister's ugly shoes. I cried for my mother, who'd loved her son so much she enabled him into destruction. And I cried for myself, for the woman I'd become, for the loneliness, for the victory that tasted like ashes. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Anna, it's Mark. Please, I need to talk to you. I'm sorry, please. I stared at the message for a long time. My therapist's voice in my head, you don't owe anyone your forgiveness. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. But was forgiveness he wanted, or just more money? I typed a response. How did you get this number? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Mom still has your old info. Please, just 10 minutes. I need to apologize, face to face. It was probably a trap. Probably Mom's idea. Get me alone, guilt me, extract money. But there was something in those words. Something that sounded like the real Mark. The one I remembered before everything went wrong. The corner cup. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Just you. Thank you. I'll be there. I sat in the workshop until the sun started to set. Then I locked up and drove home. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I arrived at the corner cup at 1:45 p.m. Early. I wanted to see him arrive. Wanted to make sure he was alone. Mr. Henderson looked up when I walked in. His face lit up. Anna, it's been so long, kid. I know, I'm sorry. Nothing to apologize for. You want the usual? Just coffee. I'm meeting someone. His smile faded. Who? Mark. He was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. You want me to stick around or give you space? Stick around, please. You got it. At 2:03 p.m., Mark walked in. I barely recognized him. He'd lost maybe 40 pounds. His expensive clothes were gone, replaced by a worn hoodie and jeans. His hair was longer, unkempt, but it was his eyes that shocked me. They were empty, hollow. The confidence, the charm, the spark, all of it was gone. He looked like a ghost. He saw me and froze. Then he walked over slowly, like he was approaching a wild animal. Anna. Mark. He sat down across from me. His hands were shaking. I could see scars on his knuckles. The shattered hand held wrong, his fingers bent at odd angles. He said, "Thank you for meeting me." His voice was different, quieter, flatter. "You said you wanted to apologize." "I do. I..." He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry for everything. For the loans, for the forgery, for treating you like an ATM, for taking advantage of you for years. You were right about all of it." I waited. There had to be more. "I've been seeing a therapist, court mandated, and a psychiatrist. They put me on medication for anxiety, depression, PTSD. He laughed bitterly. "Turns out getting beaten half to death fucks you up. Who knew?" "Mark." "No, let me finish. Please." He took a shaky breath. "I didn't come here to ask for money or forgiveness. I know I don't deserve either. I needed you to know that I understand now what I did to you, what we did to you, Mom and me." Tears were running down his face. "I didn't see you, Anna. I didn't see you as a person, just as a resource, as someone who existed to help me. And I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry." My own eyes were burning. "They're probably going to send me to prison. The trial is in 2 months. My lawyer says 18 months to 3 years. I'll plead guilty. I did it. All of it. I deserve it." "Mark, I'm not asking you to drop the charges. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. That's all." He stood up, started to leave. "Mark, wait." He turned back. And for the first time in maybe a decade, I really looked at my brother. Not the con artist, not the golden boy, just Mark. Broken, destroyed, but maybe finally honest.
"Sit down," I said. He sat. Mr. Henderson brought over 2 coffees without being asked, set them down, and retreated to give us privacy. "Why now?" I asked. "Why apologize now?" Mark stared into his coffee. "Because I hit rock bottom, literally. He swallowed hard. "I tried to kill myself 3 weeks ago. Pills. Mom found me, rushed me to the hospital. They pumped my stomach. My chest tightened. I woke up in the psych ward, and I was so angry. Angry that I'd survived. Angry at you. Angry at everyone." He looked up at me. But then the therapist there, she asked me something. She said, "If you could go back, what would you do differently?" And I realized I'd do everything differently. Every single thing. I'd get a real job. I'd stop chasing schemes. I'd be a real brother to you. His voice cracked. "But I can't go back. I can't fix it. And that's what I have to live with." I felt something crack open in my chest, something I'd kept frozen for months. "I have a confession too," I said quietly. "What?" "I lied. About being broke, about losing my job." He looked confused. "I won the lottery, Mark. $4.8 million. I won it the day before I called you and said I got laid off." His face went through several expressions. Confusion, shock, realization, then something that looked like pain. "The whole thing. The phone call. You were testing us." "Yes. And we failed. Spectacularly." He laughed, a broken, bitter sound. We did, didn't we? Jesus Christ, Anna. You must hate us so much. I did, I said. I hated you so much it felt like poison in my veins. Do you still? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I don't hate you anymore. I don't feel much of anything anymore. That's worse, isn't it? Yeah, it is. We sat in silence for a while. Mr. Henderson refilled our coffees. I called them, I said suddenly. Called who? Bridgewater Capital. I called them, told them where you'd be, when you'd be there, told them you were expecting a big payout. Mark went very still. You called them? Yes. So what happened to me? You knew. You knew what they'd do. I knew something would happen. I didn't know exactly what, but yes, I knew. He looked at me for a long moment. I couldn't read his expression. Then he nodded slowly. I deserved it. No one deserves that, Mark. I forged your name. I stole from you, from dozens of people. I was going to take Dad's workshop. His voice was flat, matter of fact. Yeah, I deserved it. Mark! It's okay, Anna. Really. I'm not mad. I can't be mad. You gave me exactly what I'd earned. He held up his ruined hand. This is just physical proof of what I've been doing to people for years. Breaking them. Taking from them. Destroying them. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be. You're the only person who ever gave me real consequences. Mom never did. She always bailed me out, made excuses, enabled me. He smiled sadly. You loved me enough to let me face what I'd done. That's more than Mom ever did. I felt tears running down my face. The money, Mark said. What did you do with it? Most of it's gone. I set up a trust for Mr. Henderson and an art fund for kids in Dad's name. Dad would have loved that. Would he? Would Dad have loved how I got here? Mark was quiet for a moment. I think Dad would have understood. He was kind, but he wasn't stupid. He knew Mom walked all over him his entire life, and it killed him at 53. Is that what you wanted? To be kind and accommodating until the stress literally stopped your heart? I didn't have an answer. You're not your father, Anna. You're not your brother. You're not your mother. You're you. And you get to decide what that means.
Mark's trial happened 2 months later. I didn't go. He pled guilty to all charges: fraud, forgery, identity theft. The judge gave him 18 months in minimum security, with credit for time served and good behavior potentially cutting it to 12. I got a letter from him 3 weeks into his sentence. Anna, prison is weird. Not as bad as I thought. Not as good as I hoped. I'm teaching a GED class to some of the other inmates. Turns out I'm good at explaining things when I'm not trying to scam anyone. Who knew? I'm sorry again for everything. I hope you're happy, or at least at peace. You deserve that. Mark. I didn't write back, but I didn't throw the letter away either. My mother sent a letter too, through her lawyer. A formal legal letter. Anna Jensen, you are hereby notified that you are no longer welcome on the property at 2847 Maple Drive. Any attempt to contact Karen Jensen will be considered harassment and will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. You are not to attend any family functions, holidays, or gatherings. You are, for all legal and personal purposes, no longer considered family. Karen Jensen, through counsel. I laughed when I read it. A bitter, hollow laugh.
She'd formalized what had been true for years. I wasn't family. I was just someone who'd run out of money to give. Dr. Chen asked me about it in our next session. How does it feel to be officially disowned? Like nothing. I felt more when I got a parking ticket. That numbness concerns me, Anna. Why? Isn't this what healing looks like? Not caring anymore? No. Healing looks like feeling your feelings and moving through them. Numbness is just postponement. She was probably right, but I couldn't access those feelings. They were locked behind the wall of ice I'd built the day I scratched off that lottery ticket. Months passed. A year, then 2. The workshop became my sanctuary. I went there every Saturday. I'd sit with Dad's paintings. Sometimes I'd try to paint myself. I was terrible at it. My clouds looked like lumpy mashed potatoes. My mountains looked like brown triangles. But it felt good. Felt like connecting with something I'd lost. I started the Jensen Art Fund officially. Hired a director. We provided grants to after-school programs, supplies to underfunded schools, scholarships to art students. The first scholarship went to a 15-year-old girl named Maria. She painted portraits, beautiful, haunting portraits that captured something essential about her subjects. She sent me a thank you letter. Dear Miss Jensen, thank you for believing in me. My dad thinks art is stupid. He wants me to be a nurse, but I want to paint. Your scholarship means I can take advanced classes. It means someone thinks my dreams matter. Thank you, Maria. I cried when I read it. Dr. Chen said that was progress. Mark got out of prison after 13 months. He moved to Oregon, got a job as a warehouse manager, sent me a postcard. Anna, I'm working, actually working, 40 hours a week, minimum wage. It's hard and boring, and I love it. I come home tired and poor and honest. It feels good. Thank you for everything, even the hard parts, especially the hard parts. Mark. I put the postcard on my refrigerator. My mother I heard about through the grapevine. She'd sold her house, had to, after losing it to Bridgewater Capital in the settlement. She moved into a small apartment, got a job as a receptionist at a dental office. According to Mr. Henderson, she told everyone her daughter destroyed the family over money, that I was cruel and vindictive, that she'd raised me better. I didn't correct the story. Let her have it. Let her be the victim. Maybe she needed that to survive. On the 3rd anniversary of scratching off that lottery ticket, I went to Dad's workshop. I'd been working on something. I'd taken his 43 paintings, had them professionally photographed, cataloged, and restored. Created a digital gallery, submitted them to galleries, art blogs, competitions. One painting, The Sunset Over Red Rocks, got accepted into a small gallery in Santa Fe. It sold for $1,200. Not a fortune, but someone somewhere thought Robert Jensen's art was worth buying, worth hanging in their home, worth looking at. I sat in the workshop with the check, made out to the Jensen Art Fund, and I finally let myself feel everything I'd been avoiding for 3 years. The grief, the guilt, the rage, the loneliness, the victory, the loss. All of it. I cried until I couldn't breathe, cried until my throat was raw, cried for the family we could have been, for the people we'd all failed to become. And then, finally,
the tears stopped. I felt not happy, but maybe at peace, or at least less at war with myself. I called Dr. Chen. I think I'm ready to talk about forgiveness, I said. Forgiving them? No, forgiving myself. She was quiet for a moment. That's the hardest kind, Anna. But yes, I think you're ready.
I started volunteering at the art programs the fund supported, teaching basic painting to kids. I was terrible at it. My technical skills were non-existent. But I could teach them what Dad taught me. That magic is knowing which things belong together. That art isn't about being good. It's about being honest. One kid, a 10-year-old named David, he reminded me of myself. Quiet, careful, trying so hard to get everything perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, I told him, watching him stress over a painting of his dog. It just has to be true. What if people don't like it? Then it's not for them. Art isn't about making everyone happy. It's about making something that matters to you. He looked at me with wide eyes. Did someone teach you that? My dad. He was a painter. Was he famous? No. He died thinking he was a failure, but he wasn't. He just never got to see that his art mattered. Does it matter now? I thought about the gallery in Santa Fe, about Maria and her portraits, about all the kids who'd received grants and supplies and scholarships. Yeah, I said, it matters now. David smiled and went back to painting his dog. I watched him work and thought about that 7-year-old girl mixing paints, about the lottery ticket, about the test that destroyed everything. Would I do it differently if I could go back? Honestly, I don't know. 5 years after the lottery win, I got a call from an unknown number. Hello? Anna? It's Mark. His voice sounded different. Stronger. More stable. Mark, hi. How are you? I'm good. Actually good. I'm calling because, well, I'm getting married. I almost dropped the phone. You're what? Married. Her name is Beth. She's a teacher. She knows everything. About the scams, about prison, about what I did to you. And she loves me anyway. Or maybe because of it. I don't know. Mark, that's amazing. I'm not asking you to come to the wedding. I know that's too much. But I wanted you to know. And I wanted to ask, can I tell her about you? The real story, about the lottery, the test, all of it. Why would you want to? Because she's the first person who's ever really known me. And I want her to really know you too. Not the villain version Mom tells. The real version. I thought about it. Yeah, you can tell her. Thank you. And Anna? Yeah? I'm proud of you. For the art fund. For Dad's paintings. For everything. You took something terrible and made it matter. That's more than most people ever do. After we hung up, I sat with those words for a long time. You took something terrible and made it matter. Maybe that was all any of us could do. Take our damage, our mistakes, our worst moments, and alchemize them into something that mattered. I never did hear from my mother again. She died 7 years after the workshop incident. Heart attack. Quick. She was 59. Mark called to tell me, asked if I wanted to come to the funeral. I thought about it for a long time. No, I said finally, but thank you for asking. I understand. For what it's worth, I think she regretted it. At the end, she asked about you, asked if I knew how you were. What did you tell her? That you were good, that you were doing good things, that Dad would be proud. Was she? I don't know. She didn't say. That felt right somehow. My mother unable to articulate pride or love even at the very end. I didn't go to the funeral, but I made a donation to the hospital where she died, for their cardiac unit. Anonymous, of course. Maybe it was forgiveness. Maybe it was just closure. I didn't examine it too closely. At 50 years old, 20 years after that lottery ticket, I finally sold the workshop. Not because I needed the money, but because I was ready to let it go. I sold it to a young artist, a woman in her 20s who wanted to convert it into a studio. My dad was a painter, I told her when we met to sign the papers. He worked here for 30 years. Please make beautiful things here. She smiled. I will. I promise. I walked through the empty workshop one last time. The smell of turpentine was long gone. The paintings had all been sold or donated. Dad's desk was gone too. I'd moved it to my condo where I used it for my own terrible attempts at art. But the space still felt like him, like magic, like possibility. Thank you, Dad, I whispered to the empty room, for teaching me that magic is just knowing which things belong together. It took me a long time to figure out what belonged in my life, and a lot of pain to remove what didn't. But I think I got there. I hope you'd think so. The empty room didn't answer, but I felt something shift inside me. Something that had been clenched tight for 2 decades finally relaxed. I locked the door for the last time and handed the keys to the young artist. Make something beautiful, I said again. I will. I walked to my car, started the engine, drove away without looking back. The corner cup was still there. Mr. Henderson had retired 5 years ago, but the anonymous trust kept the place running. A young couple run it now. They kept the vinyl booths, the cracked counters, the terrible coffee. I stopped in every Saturday morning. Scrambled eggs and toast. Extra bacon. The couple didn't know who I was, didn't know about the trust. They just knew I was a regular who tipped well and sat quietly in the corner booth. Dad's booth. That Saturday, I brought my laptop, opened the Jensen Art Fund website. We'd given out 247 scholarships over the years, funded art programs in 89 schools, helped thousands of kids. The latest scholarship recipient sent us a video, a 17-year-old boy named James. He was standing in front of a mural he had painted, a massive, colorful thing covering the side of a building. Thank you to the Jensen Art Fund, he said to the camera. My mom told me art was a waste of time, that I should focus on something practical. But this scholarship told me my art mattered, that my dreams weren't stupid. So I painted this from my neighborhood, for everyone who was told they should be practical instead of passionate.
Thank you for believing in me. I watched the video 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and looked out the window at the city I'd lived in my whole life. The city where I'd been the dutiful daughter, the enabling sister, the girl who mixed paints and believed in magic. The city where I'd won a lottery and lost a family. The city where I'd become someone I didn't recognize, then slowly, painfully, found my way back to something close to myself. Was I happy? I didn't know. Happiness felt like the wrong word. But I was at peace, most days, with what I'd done, with what I'd lost, with who I'd become. The test had cost me everything I thought I had, but it gave me something too. Clarity, strength, the knowledge that I could survive losing everyone and still be okay, still do good things, still matter. My phone buzzed. A text from Mark. Beth and I are expecting. A girl. We're naming her Robin, after Dad's middle name. Thought you should know. I smiled. Typed back, "Congratulations. She's lucky to have you as a father." I hope so. I'm terrified. That means you'll be great at it. Anna? Yeah?
Thank you for everything, even the hard parts, especially the hard parts. They made me who I am now, and I actually like who I am now. I'm glad, Mark. Do you? Like who you are? I looked at my reflection in the diner window. A 50-year-old woman, alone but not lonely, damaged but not broken, guilty but not destroyed. Getting there. I typed. Getting there. I paid my bill, left a generous tip, walked out into the morning sun. Somewhere across town, kids were painting in programs my money funded. Somewhere in Oregon, my brother was preparing to be a father. Somewhere in Santa Fe, someone was looking at my father's painting of a sunset and feeling something. And somewhere inside me, that 7-year-old girl who believed in magic was still there, scarred, wary, but still believing that beautiful things could come from mixing the right elements together. Even if those elements were grief and guilt and $4.8 million and a family destroyed. Even if the magic looked nothing like what I'd imagined. I got in my car, started the engine, and drove toward whatever came next. The lottery ticket had been a test. They failed, I failed, we all failed. But from that failure, something grew. Something imperfect and painful and real. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything.